For decades, millions of international students have injected life and culture into college campuses across America, leaving behind new curiosity for the cuisine and culture they brought with them. When they return to their home countries, they often become leaders in business, politics, and entertainment. Well, tonight you'll meet a man whose experience as a foreign student to a Christian college in Pennsylvania transformed his future and the future of so many fellow immigrants. Stay with us. His name is Robert William. If you've ever met this mild-mannered, soft-spoken man, you'll immediately be taken with his smile and irrepressible joy. And if he's especially joyful that day, you might even find him playing guitar and singing the Beatles or a favorite country song. For decades, he's helped international students navigate the challenges of coming to America just like he did, as a student from India in the early 1980s. His choice, Messiah College, which is now Messiah University. Tonight, I want to ask him about his life as a student, his journey to faith, and the way he sees God's plan to reach the world through international students. Robert, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be here.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
So glad to have you. The only thing missing is the guitar.
That's right.
I thought we'd have the guitar right here so you could sing your way into the hearts of all these Americans watching.
Well, you'll have to help me start that show.
So what's interesting is that on the day that we're taping this show,
Yes.
on the evening we're taping this show, this is almost exactly, it's like 48 years or 47 years to the day
Yes.
when you came to America.
Yes.
You landed in Philadelphia, at Philadelphia Airport.
In Philadelphia.
First time in America, on American
First
soil.
time on American soil.
Wow.
Yeah. To the day, almost to the hour.
My goodness.
That's ironic.
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
So how did you get to America originally?
Yeah. So my journey began in India, in Chennai,
Yeah.
and then my parents were educators, and in the 1960s they were recruited to teach in Ethiopia by the Ministry of Education, 1961 to be exact. And I was a 4-month-old baby,
Wow.
and my parents packed us up and we moved to Ethiopia. From Ethiopia, we were there for 9 years, and then the revolution started. Just about then, we left.
Did you live in Addis?
In Addis,
Yes.
but my parents first were in a place called Debre Marcos, which was a remote place, small town. And then we moved to a place called Nazareth, and then finally Addis. And then from there we went to Sierra Leone, 1970, West Africa, in a small town called Bo. And then from Sierra Leone we moved to Zambia, into the town of Livingston. And it was in Livingston, there was a missionary couple working with my parents, Mark and Darlene Keller, who were with, I'm pretty sure at that time, Mennonite Central Committee. And they were graduates of Messiah College. I had no idea. They took an interest in me. And my dad had talked to them at some point. He didn't share that with me. About possibly sending me to the U.S., but my family couldn't afford to send me to the U.S. Yeah. At that time, I had 5 other siblings,
Wow.
a brother and 4 sisters. My brother passed away in 1981 when I was at Messiah in India. But anyway, they opened the door. They got together a group of alum of Messiah College who all contributed toward my education. At Messiah. And Messiah was very generous in giving me an international student scholarship. And then I also worked on campus, so this was the agreement. And that's how I managed to come to the U.S.
Well, tell us, our viewers may not have a sense of what life in Africa was like for you, you know, in Zambia or in Sierra Leone or Ethiopia. I've been to Ethiopia.
Okay, yeah.
And I was struck at the fact that when I went, it was sometime in the late 1990s.
Okay.
But they gave us a fact sheet to tell us like what the annual income was for people living there and how, you know, what the life expectancy was and the like. And I was shocked because the annual income was maybe a couple $100s a year.
Yes.
And I'm sure that in Zambia and Sierra Leone, it may not have been much different. Is that right?
That is right. That is right. Ethiopia, of course, was hit by that famine
Yes.
in the 60s, 70s, I think it was, or early 80s, which really devastated the country. And so they have come a long way since then in rebuilding. But in general, you're right. You know, in terms of the average or medium income, it's not that high. In the 70s, when we were in Sierra Leone or in Zambia, for example, there used to be shortages because Zambia at that time, President Kenneth Kaunda named the countries that were around at that time, Southern Rhodesia and South Africa, apartheid and all, and fighting against that, declared the frontline states. So Zambia sacrificed a lot economically, and so the people suffered as a result of that. But he took a firm stand against apartheid, against the regime of Ian Smith in Southern Rhodesia and in South Africa. I was a student at that time in high school.
Wow.
Every now and then we'll hear the South African jets scream overhead. I remember one time we all ducked under the table desks. We had no idea if the plane was going to crash into the building, but it was that low. And then at night, sometimes there used to be, we would hear the bombs.
So the chances of people coming to America to study in America are that's almost like impossible.
No, it was very tough. I mean, you had to be either quite wealthy, you know, which was a small group, or like in my case, where an American couple or an American friend took an interest in me and my future and made it happen for me.
Wow.
Yeah. Darlene's parents, Wilbur and Lois Hess, both are passed on now, but they lived in Mount Joy, and Messiah College at that time required a host family where I could go for holidays and so on. And so they stepped up and they said, we'll give Robert a home.
So on holidays, you got to go to their house?
Holidays, weekends, I would go there. Thanksgiving, my first Thanksgiving was there. My first night in the U.S. was in Mount Joy.
Really?
At their home.
Wow.
Yeah. The other day I drove by on Mount Pleasant Road, and I pulled over and I was just looking at the house. I don't know who's staying there now, but I was just reflecting on that first.
What was it like for you? I mean, so was it culture shock? I mean, staying in the American home? I mean,
food, adjusting to the food was, I think, probably the biggest culture shock. Mom, I called Mom and Dad, you know, potatoes and sauerkraut was an issue. Nothing. I can eat it. I can deal with it. But that was a tough one. Central PA.
So what had your diet been for the most part when you were living with your parents?
Oh, back in Zambia and all, Mom cooked Indian food for the most part, but I would also share in the local food in Shima. Kapenta, this tiny fried fish, I loved that. And sauce and, you know, stew and things like that. That was also when I went to visit my friends who were Zambians. But
for the most part, so coming to America was like the diet was completely different.
Yeah, the diet was different.
Meat and potatoes, right?
Meat and potatoes. You know.
Hot dogs and sauerkraut.
Yeah,
and pork and sauerkraut.
Pork and sauerkraut. That's right. That was the toughest one. But pizza. I remember the first day, second day that I was here. Their son-in-law, we went to visit him. They lived in Lancaster, Bill and Brenda Barton, and he's an amazing guy. Played the guitar, by the way, too. And he said, "Hey, have you had pizza?" I said, "No, I didn't even know what that was." He said, "All right, we're getting pizza for dinner," and that was my first pizza.
What did you think? Did you like it?
It took a little adjustment because of the cheese. I wasn't used to eating cheese, and but eventually, I love it.
That's great. It must be amazing. So, you know, I would have to think that part of an international student being successful here is really having a family that loves them and that they can relate to, you know, and visit with, you know, coming inside somebody's home. Does that happen today for international students? Is that harder for international students today than it was when you were coming along?
Yeah, well, Messiah had that as a requirement for international students.
Very smart.
To start, and definitely it makes a difference, I think, you know, having a host family that I could go to. Mom this was needed adjustment, but she did my laundry.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'd bring my laundry and Mom would wash it, and by Sunday night she would have it all folded up and put it in a bag, and I'd bring it back to campus.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'll tell you a personal story here. Later on, I had a friend in Zambia. He was 2 years younger than me. His name is Andrew Samuel. And we were friends. He was 11 when I met him. I was 13. We became good friends. He lived in Lusaka, I lived in Livingston. But our families became good friends. And I remember when I was getting ready to come to Messiah, his mom said to me, you know, you must please help my son get to the U.S., to Messiah. She was specifically said Messiah. And I was just coming myself. I was 17 years old, you know. And this finding a host family was an issue, you know. And I tried, as a student, approaching different families. But finally, I approached my own host family, Wilbur and Lois says. I wrote them a letter. I said, he's a good friend of mine, and I assured them that he would do well. And after some thought, they wrote me a letter and said, Robert, we'll do it for your sake, you know.
Wow.
And so they signed the papers, and he came to Messiah, having found a host family. And so both of us would go there on weekends. And they took us both. Mom would call us my boys, you know, and really showered love on us. And so Andrew and I would go there on weekends and holidays and things like that. So it made a big difference, you know, for me, for him. And I could see that impact that had.
Yeah. Were you already a strong Christian when you came to Messiah?
I came to know the Lord in 1976 in Zambia at a church service where I attended in Livingston. My cousin actually was a teacher, but he also was an evangelist on the side. So it was through his that revival service that I accepted the Lord. And then we started a small youth group and so on. But very early in that journey, he was a man of prayer. His name was Paul Dorsame. He's passed on. My first cousin. I would see him praying on his knees. He had a Toyota minivan, which, you know, if he had put a patent on that, you know, he would have made a lot of money because he converted a cargo van into what we know today as a minivan with benches and all, which he designed. But he would be in there on his knees praying a lot. I mean, I'd go in and peek and he'd be praying. And that impacted me, this life of prayer and faith. So I would ask him a lot of questions, and he just imparted to me so much. And I carried that with me when I came to the U.S., and it has stayed with me all these years.
That's excellent. Was there ever any draw for you to go back home, you know, or I mean, we're glad you're here.
Yeah.
And you're a blessing here to everybody that you minister to. But was there ever a pull on you? Did your parents ever want you to come back home? Or?
My parents did not. They did not. They didn't put that pressure because my dad had died when I was 16. And so it was just my mom, and my mom had to leave Zambia and go back to India in 1981. My brother had died in 81. But what happened in 81 was she needed surgery. That was one of the main reasons she went back. And I faced this big decision about, she said she won't have the surgery unless I came back. And I had one more year to go, and I knew getting a visa to come back would be next to impossible. I was so afraid of that. I literally was very afraid of that I wouldn't get the visa to come back. So I took a step of faith, and I didn't have the money to pay for my air ticket. God provided through a conference of full gospel businessmen that were taking place on campus. And I needed $600. I got $650 in an offering.
Wow.
And there were 4 students at Messiah who each opened my mailbox, and I found 4 crisp $100 bills from these 4 students. Never forget that. That's how I went. So I took it as a sign that the Lord was going to provide, and He provided to go. So I took a step of faith, and I went back. But I remember going to the U.S. consulate in Chennai, giving my papers, my passport, and he said, "So why are you going to the U.S. and going back?" I said, "To finish my degree. I have one more year to complete my education, my undergrad, my bachelor's." And you know, he said to me, even yesterday I was describing this to my wife. He said, "What makes you think you're going back?"
Wow.
I almost collapsed on the floor.
Oh,
I didn't know
no.
what to say. I just knew that I should just be very careful what I say.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be rude. I shouldn't get emotional or anything. I just said, I was given an opportunity to study in the U.S. I just want to make sure I get my degree so I can help my family.
Yeah.
Well, thankfully, he stamped my passport. He did require some additional documents, which we were able to get together, but I got it and came back to the U.S., of course. One could say the rest is history. But, you know, Joe, after all these years, now that I launched this Pennsylvania Center for International Exchange Partner, it comes from my own journey coming as an international student. You know, I worked nearly 17 years in the Pennsylvania state government and experiences there that led to this, that I could launch this. And over the last 10, 15 years, I've taken over 400 business students to India. I've sent American students to study for a whole semester in India.
Wow.
And when I worked with another agency, and I'm still developing my program, which is also in India at this point, you know, but trying to build partnerships in London, in UK and Dubai and China and Greece and so on. But yeah, so in a very interesting turn of events, I take students to India, students learn about economic development, microfinance, and so on and so forth, through a program, ironically, that is still being run by Messiah called International Business Institute. And it has meant a lot to me since I was a business student at Messiah. But yeah, it has come full circle.
Yeah.
It really has. And I went on 2 trade missions when I was with the state, one to South Africa and one to India. I don't know if you knew Johnny Butler, but he was the secretary.
Johnny Butler.
You know Johnny Butler?
Yeah.
Well, Johnny Butler was Secretary of Labor.
Labor, yeah.
So one day, I'll cut it really short.
Yeah.
One day I was in the lunch line. I said, "Mr. Secretary, you know, are you free for lunch?"
Yeah.
I didn't interact too much with him before that, and he said, "No, I'm really busy." Long story short, as I started eating my lunch, and then I saw him coming back into the dining room, and he headed straight to where I was sitting. He came and sat. He said, "May I join you?"
Yeah,
I said,
that's
"Sure."
nice.
And I don't know what came over me. I said, "Mr. Secretary, when are we going to Africa? When are we going to open a trade office in Africa?" You know, Governor Ridge was opening many trade offices around the world. And, you know, he used to be a linebacker, you know.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
Big guy, you know,
I
he pushed, leaned back like this. He said, "Robert," he said, "I can't believe you asked me that." He said, "I just came from a meeting with the governor, and he has asked me to co-lead a trade mission to South Africa."
Wow.
So then I told him I spent so many years in Africa. He said, "Do you have your resume?" I said, "Yeah, I do." He said, "All right, send it to me." By 4 o'clock that afternoon, I got a call and said, "I understand you're going to represent Secretary Butler on the planning team." I said, "Oh, yeah, okay, sure." You know, that changed my trajectory.
Yeah.
And that really did. And that's why I'm doing what I am today.
That's a blessing. His name is Robert William. He's the president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Center for International Exchange and Partnership. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Learn more about Joe Watkins and the mission of this program at joewatkins.net. And tell Joe what you thought about today's program in the comment box.
My guest tonight, Robert William, is something of a translator, helping students from all over the world see the world differently. It's also been a way for him to share his faith. Robert, you've been to dozens of countries around the world. When you're introducing America to an international student or leading a trip of Americans abroad, what do you want them to understand about the people they'll encounter?
In the United States?
Yeah.
That they will encounter. Well, first of all, I always tell them, you know, the United States is a nation of immigrants. So in that sense, you're not a stranger. You're identifying with millions over the years, over the generations. And secondly, it's a land of opportunity. You work hard. I believe that. I still believe that. Some people say, no, that era is gone. I don't believe that. I believe the United States is still a land of opportunity. And if you work hard, you can do well.
Yeah.
You know. And the other thing I say to them is respect. You know, show respect, even if somebody doesn't show you respect. You know, you show respect, and not everybody is going to like you.
Yeah.
And I found that out over the over the years as well. But that doesn't mean you have to be like them, and you can rise over and above them. Yeah. And so no, it's a good country.
Yeah.
I'm thankful to the Lord for bringing me to this country. Only He opened the door for me to come here. My prayer every day, honestly, Joe, is how can I bless this nation that you brought me to? I don't know how much longer I have, but as long as I'm alive, you know, I want to be a blessing to this nation that has given me hope, given my family hope, and that has blessed me.
Yeah. Well, you've got a great story, and it's a story that people need to hear. And it's so helpful to a lot of other people who may be coming from other places here, and are trying to figure out how to navigate this place. Yeah. And it's just wonderfully helpful to have a mentor like you, you know, to help them translate it. My mother came from another country. She came from the West Indies here as a teenager, and has been here ever since, and loves this country.
Yeah.
And she has felt the same way you did, which is that this is a land of opportunity that, you know, if you don't, she would always say to us, don't ask anybody for anything, but, you know, work hard, you know, be industrious, you know, and see what doors open up for you.
That's right.
And that's really been the story of our lives, all the great opportunities that we've had in this country, in this wonderful place. We're living in a more divided time now. You know, there have always been folks who, even though everybody is from an immigrant family, I mean, everybody here in this country is from someplace else.
Right.
But there is a sense among some people that they don't. Maybe we've welcomed enough people from overseas to come here, and I don't think that's the case. But some people may think that way. What do you say to them?
You know, it's sad that we are kind of facing that in this day and age today in this nation. And it's going to take time to heal and bring back that sense of unity we've tasted of. You know, I think of Martin Luther King, I think of Mahatma Gandhi, when they were beaten and accused and called names. Many times they kept quiet. They didn't retaliate. They didn't insult back. And I feel that is the answer. It's not so much an issue of turning the other cheek. I think you are a stronger person when you are able to restrain yourself and not hit back. And walk away. And eventually justice will be done.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amen,
I believe that.
Amen.
Eventually.
Amen. Yeah. I think you're right. Well, this has been such an encouraging conversation with Robert tonight. I know he can sing also. Maybe next time we'll need to invite him to bring his guitar and sing for us, maybe a little Johnny Cash. But stay tuned, folks. I'll be right back with our great producer, Jeff Coleman.
You're watching Joe Watkins' State of Independence on Lighthouse TV. Positively different. Share your comments about today's program in the comment box at joewatkins.org.
And now let's talk to our great producer, Jeff Coleman.
What did I tell you?
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, what I think Robert's message on so many levels is important, but perhaps the most important message that he communicated was that conversation about paying for tuition at Messiah. That God continues to provide for people in extraordinary ways, but asking specifically, persistently, knowing that He knows our needs. It isn't just the stuff of old, missionary books about praying for $400 and there, the offering comes out almost to the exact amount. I mean, this is a significant promise that God makes to people who are his followers, that he will provide wherever he leads and guides them.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing how he came to America, after starting in India and Ethiopia and Zambia and
It wasn't a
Sierra
straight
Leone.
line.
No, it wasn't a straight line.
Yeah, and that's another lesson too, is that our lives are not straight lines of going from achievement to achievement, or from a birth to high school graduation to wedding day to, it's not a perfect sequence of events. And I think it would help a lot of people who look at people who identify as Christians to say, you're telling me a story that sounds almost like a fairy tale, but when you let them in on the life of struggle and let them in on the places where you needed to trust God and not your own intuition, your own ability, your own even educational credentials, where you had to trust God beyond what was humanly possible, that's where people go, oh, I can see that this might be real and not just a religious system or a very convenient belief, because it helps you blend in with people at work who also happen to be Christians.
Yeah, it took some faith to go to India when his mother needed him to be there, knowing that he might not be able to get back.
Right.
And when he goes back to the guy to say, I need to go back to the States, the guy says, what makes you think you're going back?
Yeah, Joe, there are thousands of passport stamps and visa approvals that should not have happened. But we all have these stories, and we forget them sometimes, about all of the times when we are standing at the gate and somebody goes, yeah, or admissions offices, or doctor's appointments, or it's a sequential series of events that feel very ordinary 10 years after the event, but in the moment they are a direct answer to someone's prayer, and probably your very desperate prayer.
Yeah. He was worried that he wasn't going to get back to the United States, but God answered his prayer, and he had enough favor to get back in.
And for international students to encounter somebody like that, who is able to tell a story not of try harder, do better, but trust God and surrender, that's really significant.
Yeah. Well, I hope this conversation helped open your eyes and heart to the international students in your neighborhood. More than anything, they need to experience the love and hospitality that characterize true followers of Jesus. If this program blessed you, drop me a line in the comment box at joewatkins.org. I read and will respond to every message. From America's First Capital, Philadelphia, I'm Joe Watkins. For Jeff Coleman and the entire team behind the cameras, thanks so much for watching. God willing, we'll see you again next week. Yeah. I told him next time bring his guitar. So he
Put a band behind it.
Play a little bit of Johnny Cash for us.
That was good stuff. And international students right now, I just saw the numbers have significantly